We have Mahmoud Jega, former chairman, editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper, and a Rise News current affairs analyst. He joins us on the program to do some analysis of all we've been talking about. Yes, glad to have you. You listened to the last speaker, and then, of course, the creation of states. Yeah. Maybe we should start with the last speaker, a behemoth. That's the way to describe corruption in this country over the years. Why are we not able to tackle it? Or what do you make of what Awal said, you know?
It's very, very difficult. It's probably the country's #1 problem, which created most of the other problems. Because even the insecurity that we have now in many parts of the country can quite properly be attributed to the corruption and the collapse. Just like you're saying, you vote ₦1 trillion to buy weapons, the procurement problem is faulty, the political leadership takes so much of the money, the security agents cannot be trusted with the money, and all other public services are hardly functioning well. So you see the problem cascaded into every other area, and unfortunately by the time it also affected and uprooted the core social values, then you have a serious problem. Because like some people pointed out, the young persons who grew up in Nigeria in the last 20 years, they are beginning to think that that is the normal way of doing things. A small boy will phone me and say, I'm trying to get admission into this university. You know, that's what one boy told me. You know, in Nigeria, if you don't know somebody, I said, you are telling me Nigeria, you found me here when you came. When did you come into Nigeria? And you are lecturing me about the way Nigeria is. But it is a serious problem because that's how he found it, and he thinks that that's
the way it
the
works.
norm. Exactly. He thinks that's the way it works. Social values have collapsed. As people point out in many areas, people who steal public funds, they are honored by traditional rulers and by clerics. Those are supposed to be the guardians of the conscience of society, but they are even the ones in the forefront, sometimes, not all of them, but many of them, of honoring people with chieftaincy. I mean, we all know that this person is a thief. He occupied public office. Why did he get this money? And then you organize the whole community to honor.
No, but in law, you're presumed innocent until found guilty.
Well, the law can presume anything, but in a community, we know you.
Well,
we know where you came from and how you grew up and the office that you went and occupied, and overnight you came into riches.
Billions. Yes.
If the anti-corruption and the other government agencies cannot find you and punish you, that's different. But as a community, we should not sanction and glorify that by bringing you together to honor you with a chieftaincy and other titles, because you see the moral code of the society is ultimately the most important thing. Without it, no institutions will survive, which is why we complain that even the anti-corruption agencies, you see reports recently that some EFCC officials, they stole the money that was collected from people being investigated. If you have a situation like that, really, where will we all go?
Is it impossible to fight corruption?
I will not say it is impossible. As long as we are alive, there is always hope. And I'm sure the experts can always bring, because to be frank, the coming of some technological tools in the last 15 to 20 years have helped. For example, BVN alone helped to reduce the ghost worker syndrome. Previously, one accountant can have 10, 20 accounts and pay different salaries into it. But if all the accounts must be linked by BVN, that alone has helped to reduce the ghost worker syndrome. I'm not saying it has eliminated it, but it has helped to trim it. So there are even technological solutions that will help. I'm sure the coming of NIN also would help check some things, although not all of them, because the criminals are always running ahead.
What do you make of, because we discussed two issues, the creation of states, 31 states into 67, and with the with the process?
The senator that you had earlier in the evening, he spoke very well. He made a persuasive case, especially for the Southeast. Although I saw a problem with one thing he said, that in the First Republic, the leaders got together and created the Midwestern state out of the Western state. They showed their patriotism and all that. Historically, I don't think that was correct. What happened in 1964 was that the leaders of the MPC and the NCNC got together and carved the Midwest out of the Western state in order to incapacitate the opposition action group which was in charge in the West. Because otherwise, there was agitation in the North for a middle belt state, and there was agitation in the East for a southeastern state of the areas we now call Niger Delta, but none of those was granted. It was only the middle belt, the Midwest request to be carved out of the West that was granted. So it was not exactly an exemplary thing to do, but we can always do better. Now, as you were discussing with him, the processes for creating states in the present constitution are extremely tough, and probably they are not meant to be realized. But again, he said something important, that if the leaders, especially the president, probably wants to tackle this problem, if he sees it as a major national priority, he might be able, through the Council of State and the National Economic Council, to engineer some kind of consensus. Because there has to be a national consensus. Otherwise, how can you get 2/3 majority in the Senate and in the House, and also get 2/3 of all the states?
And then go to local government.
And approve with the referendum and all that. So there has to be some form of national consensus. But the problem is, as almost everybody is saying, many of the states that we have themselves today are hardly viable. So why do you want to create more? Then each one will have governor and state assembly and 20 commissioners
and local
advisors and local governments. And
then they will cap in hand to the federal government.
Yes, that's why.
Thank you so much, Jega, for being on our Rights Prime Time. Well, that's it for this edition of our Rights Prime Time. Please join us again tomorrow. For me and the entire team here in Abuja, goodbye and thank you for watching.